Well, 5th of August it is, wherever you're watching from East Africa and around the world. This is Citizen News at 1. I'm Johnson Mwakazi. Of course, today big things are happening, including that second crisis meeting. Deputy President William Ruto is set to give a statement on functions which have been devolved in county governments. This comes after the government transferred devolved functions to 13 counties which have been cleared by Transition Authority. Among the devolved jobs include agriculture, health, county, public works and others. We, of course, will be joining our very own reporter, Francis Gashuri, for details of that second crisis meeting. But in the meantime, we want to make it absolutely interactive, and we're asking you, do you think the national government is frustrating devolution? That is the accusation that governors have made so far. So we're asking you, do you think the national government is frustrating devolution? You can send in your comments to 22422, that's 22422. Kindly include your name and location, and after your yes or no response, add one or two sentences giving us the reasons as to why you think so, and we'll appreciate sampling some of them. But in the meantime, let's move on to other stories. Now, the High Court case challenging the criminal proceedings against former Foreign Affairs Permanent Secretary Citiaen At and two others will now be heard on the 28th of this month. All parties in the case have been directed to give their submissions before the commencement of the case. Two others in the case are former Ambassador to Libya, Anthony Mushiri, and the Director of Foreign Affairs, Alan Mburu. The three are accused of breaching public trust by approving the purchase of property for the Chancery of the Kenyan Embassy and Ambassador's residence at a cost of 1.75 billion shillings in Japan, while aware that a fair market price could have been obtained had proper procurement procedures been adhered to. Now, in the meantime, we'll move on to another story here. Residents of Baringo County, who are mainly pastoralists, are now turning to rice farming to improve on their economic well-being. The current rains that have pounded the place, causing flooding, is now turning out to be a blessing in disguise for some farmers who have now embarked on rice farming.
Floods in Marigat, Baringo County have on many occasions been a menace to the residents. Families have been displaced and losses incurred after Lake Baringo burst its banks. This plight is, however, slowly changing as farmers are now using the flood water and Lake Baringo to grow rice and irrigate crops in the area.
People imagine that you can only get rice in Kano, in Kisumu, or you can get rice in Mwea. But even Baringo has a lot of potential for rice. We actually are going to be harvesting 150 acres of rice, and that's quite a significant volume.
Residents are, however, facing another challenge with their produce.
Tuna shida ingine ya barabara. Kufikia chenye tunapanda hapa kwa shamba, sometimes huwa ni ngumu. Tunaweza panda hata tomato, ikiwa ni siku ya soko ni the next day inanyesha before tuvune. Sasa inaharibikia kwa shamba.
Baringo County Governor Benjamin Cheboy has assured residents that his government will move fast to deal with the poor state of roads in the county to encourage investors to the region. Jeff Kirui, Citizen At 1.
Now, moving on to other areas, West Pokot leaders are blaming the government for not supporting the county in building the infrastructure for higher education in the county. Speaking in Kapenguria during the official launch of Nairobi University Kapenguria campus, West Pokot County Governor Simon Kachapin said, though his government will support all education institutions which want to set up their campuses in the area to help locals achieve higher education, he said there was need for national government to assist in setting up such institutions.
Devolution is in our midst, and all sectors, university education being one of them, must be found in all counties.
Kwa sababu West Pokot ni wakulima na wafukaji wengi,
tutahitaji pia kufungua programs centers mahali watu watafundishwa namna ya kuweka ng'ombe, namna ya kulisha ng'ombe, namna ya kufanya biashara. University kama Nairobi iko established, si lazima wakuja wafungue unit specialized ya ng'ombe pale, lakini wanaweza kuja wiki moja, wiki mbili.
All right, now on our public interest segment, Citizen Roadhog, our cameras capture, among others, the brazen disregard of traffic laws by a familiar culprit, the government, or rather its drivers. We bring you 5 GK vehicles caught in the act of overlapping, and never mind a revised traffic law recently enacted by government, recommending stiff penalties. We also ask, just how many passengers is a Probox vehicle licensed to carry?
By observing the traffic in Nairobi, we noticed that government vehicles are notorious for overlapping. Why do the drivers of government vehicles believe they are exempted from traffic laws? In just one morning, in one traffic jam, we witnessed numerous roadhogs in GK vehicles. Sample this. GKA 902N.
Shame on you!
This car is registered under the Office of the Vice President and Ministry. GKA 529R.
Shame on you!
This car is registered under the National Assembly. GKA 731M.
Shame on you!
This car is registered under the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs. GKB 477C.
Shame on you!
This car is registered under the Commission on Administrative Justice. GKB 771C.
Shame on you!
This car is registered under the Judicial Department. Our viewer captured this roadhog who overlapped traffic instead of waiting patiently in line with other motorists. So to the driver of KBV 710L,
shame on you!
this car is a joint ownership of Kenya Commercial Bank and Julius KITHURE Aritho. In Meru, we came across this Toyota Probox that is dangerously overloaded. Can you guess how many people are in this car? To the driver of KBR 031T,
shame on you!
this car is registered under Julius Buriu Murungi. If you see a roadhog, take a picture or video and tell us where it happened, and we will shame them. Please send your pictures and videos of roadhogs via WhatsApp to 0701 515151 or 0734 700 004 or Facebook or Twitter.
Beware. That means you and I, and really it's for the good of this country. Anyways, let's move on to other stories. Now, the annual National Music and Drama Festivals for Schools has kicked off in Nakuru County. The festival brings together students from across the country, representing each of the 47 counties. Organizers say that the event does not only serve as competitions, but play a great role in growing talents as well as promoting national unity.
Pomp and color characterize the first day of the Kenya National Music Festivals. The event, held every second term, will take place in Melvin Jones,
Everybody follow me. Follow me.
Lions Primary School and Menengai High School. The three institutions offering auditoriums where the performances will be staged. The competitions will see participants drawn from primary school level through secondary to college level. The schools taking part in the festival will showcase various categories of performances ranging from dancing, poetry, singing, games, and own compositions that are to be judged by selected adjudicators who have served as teachers in their respective categories.
Walianza kama miaka 15 iliyopita huwa wanafika national. Na vile wametoka hapa wako na confidence, hata ukiwapatia insha wanaandika.
Spectators are an important aspect of the festival, who arrive in the host towns from across the country, with some coming from across the borders. This offers a boost to the local economy of the host countries during the week-long festivities. As a tradition, the winning students perform their winning piece to the president and select guests at State House. And it will be interesting to see which themes dominate the festivals this year. Organizers say their intention is to complement the school calendar with co-curricular activities as part of the school curriculum. Chris Ongombe, Citizen at 1.
All right, so let me take you back to a story that I introduced to you earlier on. We're basically waiting for our reporter, Francis Gashuri. He is now ready. But just to give you the meat of the matter, Deputy President William Ruto is set to give a statement on functions which have been devolved in county governments. This comes after the government transferred devolved functions to 13 counties which have been cleared by Transition Authority. Among the devolved jobs include agriculture, health, county public works and others. We're now joined by our senior reporter, Francis Gashuri, to bring us the details on this particular report. Good afternoon, Francis Gashuri.
Good afternoon to you, Makazi.
Very many thanks. Of course, this is the second crisis meeting, if I may call it. Perhaps let's begin with who are present in this particular meeting.
Thank you, Makazi, and good afternoon once again. Devolution continues to be thorn in the flesh for the national government, if you may like it. And for the second week running, the Deputy President is hosting governors and other stakeholders in the devolution process, just to try and iron out the issues that have been dogging devolution so far. And the people who are in this meeting, that is of course being chaired by the Deputy President, is the Chairman of the Transitional Authority, Kinodia Wamwangi, and 9 governors representing the Council of Governors led by their Chairman, Bomet Governor Isaac Ruto, and also the Commission on Revenue Allocation that is chaired by Mika Cheserem, as well as the Constitution Implementation Commission, because devolution is a constitutional matter. That commission chaired by Charles Nyechai, also the Controller of Budget, and the line ministers on matters of devolution, Anwar Igoro, Engineer Michael Kamau of Transport and Infrastructure, James Mashari of Health, and Davis Chirchir of Energy and Petroleum, as well as the man who keeps the country's coffers, that is the Cabinet Secretary in charge of the National Treasury, Henry Rotich, and also the Senate Committee on Devolution. So basically, those are the people who are attending this meeting, and it's been on for about 3 hours now, and the issues that are being deliberated on are specifically on the question of allocation of resources vis-a-vis the functions assigned to the county government as well as the national government in Schedule 4 of the Constitution, Mokazi.
All right, so perhaps you could give us the significance of the functions of the county being gazetted, because as it stands now, the functions of the counties have not been gazetted yet. What is the significance of the gazettement of the functions?
Mokazi, a number of governors that I've been able to speak to are saying they can't clearly point where the challenge is, because the Constitution is clear on the functions of the national government vis-a-vis the functions of the county government. And the 14 functions allocated to the county government, according to them, are supposed to take effect immediately. However, the transitional authority is saying that the transitional period will take about 3 years, but the governors are insisting that all these functions must be gazetted and they should start applying them immediately. And of course, Mokazi, with functions comes resources. And although in the 2013-2014 financial year, or the budget of that financial year, 210 billion shillings has been allocated to the county government, 20 billion shillings for the equalization fund, and 190 billion shillings that will be disbursed directly to the county government. But so far, the governors that we've been able to speak to are saying the functions have not yet been gazetted, so that the resources can be allocated. And Mokazi, you see, once the functions have been gazetted, that's the only time that money can now be allocated, can be disbursed, so that the functions can be effected. So what the governors are pushing for in today's meeting is that the functions be gazetted immediately. And so far, I'm informed that they have been given an undertaking by the national government, but that those functions will be devolved, will be gazetted before this week ends. And then the issue of resources. The challenge, or the elephant in the room, Wakazi, this afternoon, is the money allocated to energy and the energy sector and also the road sector. They're insisting that it seems like the national government is trying to hold on to the funds that have been allocated to the roads, construction, the county roads, as well as the electricity function in the counties. This is the money that they are insisting that they must get, and that the national government should not hold on to these funds. So that's basically what the deputy president is trying to find a solution, a consensus on, or a level ground, so that at the end of the day, devolution works. But a few governors that I've been able to speak to are insisting that there seems to be a disconnect between what the national government is saying and what they are being told by the transitional authority. Remember, the transitional authority is like the midwife for devolution. So they're saying, whereas the national government is giving an undertaking that funds will be allocated, functions will be gazetted, they are seeing some resistance from the transitional authority. That's basically what they're trying to iron out in this afternoon's meeting, Mokazi.
Perhaps a final question here. There have been concerns, accusations that have been directed against the national government, especially from the county government, that the national government is actually frustrating the devolution process. How's that being handled?
Absolutely, Mokazi. That is a matter that has come up during this meeting, and a number of governors that we've been able to speak to when they had a short break is that they're saying the government has not yet shown enough willingness to devolve funds and functions. But on the other hand, you remember last week the deputy president hosted 21 Jubilee governors here at his residence in Karen, and he was making an undertaking that the national government will do everything possible to ensure that devolution works. So basically, that's the pull and push, or that tug of war between the national government and the county governments, is basically what they're trying to find a common solution to. And hopefully, by the time they finish this meeting, we'll get a clearer picture. But the issue now, the elephant in the room, Mokazi, is allocation of resources as well as the gazettement of these functions. And specifically, although they are saying there's an agreement on the gazettement of specific functions like agriculture, health services in the counties, livestock, and so on, but they're saying the crux of the matter is roads and electricity. And remember, this is where the bulk of the money will go. So that's basically what they're trying to iron out, and probably once they do that, then there may be some headway after this afternoon's meeting, Mokazi.
Right, many thanks indeed, Francis Gashuri, giving us the details of that still ongoing crisis meeting, bringing together the national government and the county government, and of course the other stakeholders as far as devolution is concerned. Key among the things that are being discussed is the place of allocation of resources to the county governments and the place of gazettement of county functions, specifically focusing on roads and electricity. Of course, we'll be giving you details of that particular report later on. Now, still on that story of devolution, the storm of devolution continues to rage on, with Jubilee members of the National Assembly now alleging a plot by the opposition to cripple the Uhuruto government. The leaders said the Jubilee government is committed to devolution, but their opponents are sabotaging the government to make it look bad. Meanwhile, a section of senators have demanded a speedy gazettement of all devolved functions and the subsequent release of funds to carry out the devolved functions.
Devolution has now become a pet subject for most politicians, with rivals fighting each other over the issue. MPs allied to Jubilee are now accusing their opponents in court for allegedly blackmailing the Uhuru Kenyatta's government.
Kuna watu wamepanga hii serikali yaanguke hata kabla haijaanguka. Ndio sababu unasikia kila kitu kuna neno mpya. Uhuru na Ruto are ours and they are going to govern us. Kuna wengine wanapanga ate nini, hakuna asifanya, wanaenda hata ng'ambo kutafuta nini. Ni raia walisema Uhuru tosha. Kuna mtu atakuja kusema hakuna.
The leaders claimed that the devolution issue was one of the tools being used by the opposition to paint a bad image of the Jubilee government.
Tumeketi na president pamoja na deputy tukiwa senators. Na tumehakimia vile devolution itaendelea. Na president pamoja na deputy, they are 100% for devolution.
The senators, on the other hand, continued to mount pressure on the national government to speedily gazette the devolved functions and roll out respective funding.
We in the Senate are united to protect devolution, which was a decision made by the people of Kenya.
Sufficient money in line with those functions which are being devolved, so that they be able to run the county. Because if we do not devolve the resources, how are these counties going to succeed?
Kendagor Obadia, Citizen at 1.
Right, many thanks, Kendagor Obadia, for that report. Now, still focusing on the concerns that have been raised by the county governments that national government is actually frustrating devolution. We're asking you this afternoon, do you think the national government is frustrating devolution? Do you think the national government is frustrating devolution? You can send in your comments to 22422. That's 22422. Kindly include your name and location and a sentence or two after your yes or no response. Abdurazak Sheikh Ahad from Mandela says, no, the process needs a lot of carefulness. Let them take time. Sir Nixon Ndugire from Kindaruma says, no, I honestly don't think so. But rather, it's trying to put things straight at this early stage, which may not please many. And then we have Dominic from Thika says, not really. The governors are pushing and have no capacity. Let them go slow but sure. And then we have Francis from Kasarani says, no, anyone who says the government is frustrating devolution should refer to the Constitution and see the percentage provided and see the percentage already devolved. Constitution says 15% and government have given more than twice. It's political, I believe. And then we have Dr. Odida Okuthe says, yes, the government has retained county commissioners and provincial administration against the Constitution. And then perhaps a final one here, Abdallah Ismail from Kisumu says, the government is not sincere about devolution. All had to be done gradually within the time frame as per the new constitution. Please note that some counties have no officers where they effectively implement their functions. All right, so many thanks indeed for those comments. Keep them coming. The number is 22422. Do you think the national government is frustrating devolution? We want to know. Now, more than 500 people in Nyeri County have received shoes from Ahadi Kenya Trust Foundation. Both the elderly and the young were given the shoes as part of campaign in the fight against jigger infestation in the country.
It was song and dance at Muiga Town as Ahadi Kenya, in conjunction with Purity Elderly Care Foundation, donated shoes to the elderly as they launched war on jigger menace in the area. Ahadi Kenya Trust Director Stanley Kamau said old people are vulnerable to jiggers and the shoes would protect them from the infestation.
shoes are very, especially the rubber shoes, will come in very handy to the old people. And that's why we are asking all other stakeholders who maybe have blankets, clothes, and other such things to support the aged people.
It's a very cold season where we find that a lot of elderly people suffer due to cold or they succumb due to cold. And this gesture of donating shoes is a very, indeed, I must admit, a very good gesture.
Nilikuwa nauliza Mungu Baba, nitaenda miguu tubu wa kanisa lako, lakini ninashukuru kwa sababu nina viatu mpya. Asante.
Kamau said Ahadi has distributed more than 1 million pairs of shoes and is planning to donate more than 10 million in the next 2 years. Masharia Mwangi, Citizen at 1.
All right, now, you know, the role of a traditional healer in the Giriama community is one that is respected and admired by many. But for one to become a traditional healer in the sense, he or she must undergo a thorough test conducted by Giriama elders. The process is physically and mentally vigorous, as is spiritual. And it can last for as long as a week. Now, our very own Kanzedena was in Bungale, Kilifi County, where she witnessed the process of anointing a traditional healer. Here now is her report.
We arrive at Bungale in Kilifi County. The atmosphere is rich with expectations. Today, a new traditional healer will be anointed, subject to passing an all-important test. And preparations for the big occasion, to which only a chosen few are invited, is on top gear. Drums are a must at this cultural event known as Ngoma ya Kuronga, a special dance performed for the traditional Giriama practitioners. And here, the women take charge of the ceremony. They are veterans and therefore qualified to conduct a ceremony of this magnitude. They are here to vet a potential traditional healer. The candidate must bathe using special water known as vuo that has some special herbs. This is a cleansing ritual that the student will require to partake of every day before she embarks on her daily duties. We are made aware that she has started communicating with the spirits. These spirits are the power behind the ability of the traditional healers to solve the problems of their people.
Pepo manake ni roho ambayo ina uwezo wa kufanya mwanadamu kutenda mambo fulani ambayo si ya kawaida. Lugha ya sasa Kiswahili unaweza kuwaita malaika.
Then from nowhere, the candidate takes off to an unknown destination. A destination, we are told, that will be determined by the spirits that have now taken control of her. In some instances, the escort of a horn blower is necessary as it enhances communication between the candidate and the spirits.
Nikifika msituni, miti ni mingi lakini sitachukua kila mti. Kuna mtu kwa akili yangu ananiambia chukua mti huno. Na nitaenda mpaka hapo nikauchukue kweli huo mti. Na hata kama ni mkubwa tena nitaung'oa na mizizi yake.
Upon her return to the venue, she is welcomed in style. By returning with the herbs, that candidate has automatically passed the first test. The herbs will be stored under her bed, and it is believed that they will help her in executing her duties as a traditional healer. The final test will be the interpretation test. Here, the student is required to interpret a problem that will be presented by the elders. So the elders get into the house and begin to draw what they call bow. Once they're done, they present the bow to the candidate who has been waiting outside patiently. Once presented with the bow, the student will rub off the pattern and recreate it as she analyzes the problem. Soon, she breaks the code and is ready to reveal her analysis. The smiles on the face of the women is a clear indication that she has gotten it spot on. She has passed the test. The student has now graduated into a fully fledged traditional Giriama healer ready to serve the people. Jubilation is inevitable, and I join in the celebrations. Unknown to me, this is a special dance for the traditional practitioners that gets them revitalized and re-energized. And these are not just any kind of dramas.
Now, as insignificant as they may seem as instrumentalists, their role is really one that is important, because if they miss a beat, they interfere with the intervention of the spirits.
During the dance, however, we witness something out of the ordinary.
Kule kutetemeka, yule alete zile nguvu mpya, ndiye atakayekuja na kutetemeka. Manaka naweza nikatetemeka mpaka nikaanza kuzungumza lugha wewe huisikii.
This is definitely not an everyday dance. It is a special dance. It is ngoma ya kuronga. Kanzedena, Citizen TV.
All right. Many thanks indeed, Kanzedena. We totally appreciate and thank you so much, the people of Giriama, for giving us the opportunity to actually know a bit about your culture. Now, a reminder of our feedback question focusing on the fact that governors have accused the national government of frustrating devolution. So we're asking you, do you think the national government is frustrating devolution? Do you think the national government is frustrating devolution? You can send in your comments to 22422. That's 22422. Kindly include your name and location, and please, after your yes or no response, please add one or two sentences telling us, giving us the reason why you think so. We have Masharia from Nairobi says, no, the governors are pushing this thing, yet many counties don't even have the financial or human capacity to undertake extra duties. And then we have somebody from Mombasa says, not at all. The Transitional Authority must protect taxpayers' interest. 90% goes for their luxuries and wastage as part of their handout culture. They lack capacity, since most of them are politicians, not administrators. Very unfortunate for devolution, is no longer my dream. And then we have Martin from Kirinyaga says, no, the government is slowly monitoring the county government after making a very frustrating budget which portrayed a lot of misuse. And perhaps a final one here, Nick from Mombasa says, yes, because the current government all along has been against devolution. So it is a thorn in the flesh. And remember, it's not practical that they are for devolution when they did not support it during the referendum. All right, so send your comments, 22422. Send your comments, 22422. Do you think the national government is frustrating devolution? And we'll be glad to sample some of them during this particular bulletin here on Citizen Television. Don't go away. We'll be right back.